Hello and welcome to Monkey's Paperpalooza Craft Corner. Today we're going to start our first video of our three-part series of the September 2018 My Monthly Hero Kit. This kit had a beautiful autumn theme, which is perfect for this season. So let's start by unbagging our kit. So inside this beautiful red tissue paper they had this month, you get two little packets like always. Though there's some little extras in the accessory packet that are kind of interesting, and we'll go through those in a second. We also have a new thing they added, which gives you your kit contents, which is fun. So that way you always know what's in there. And you get a beautiful stamp set plus a very huge die set this month. So let's start with the little accessory pack. So in this pack, there are three things. Get it out from there. There we go. The first thing is going to be these little leaf notes. They're like Post-its, but they're like a plastic translucent maple leaf. They are very fun. They say they're good for little books and everything. I'm not sure how they're going to work for a card because there's only adhesive on half of it. I was kind of hoping they were full adhesive, but they are only half, which I guess that's good for bookmarks and stuff. But yeah, the adhesive line is right there, and they're very translucent, and they're like a vinyl plastic, and you get 30 of those in your pack, which is kind of cool. The little veins and everything. Let me show you again. Super thin. Like I said, only a little bit tacky. I don't think they're super tacky. I might have to add more adhesive if I use them on a card, but they're kind of cool. Next is some watercolor. They're dry, but you wet them with your brush and they will come to life. And they give you all your color information on the bottom as well as underneath each color. But look at those colors. You got sap green, mummy, bauxite, carmine, permanent orange, isodoline yellow, and pyrrole scarlet. But they're by Daniel Smith and they're extra fine watercolors. So I don't know if they're going to end up putting these out on the site pretty soon, because usually sometimes they introduce things this way too. But look at them, and they tell you all the series, and you can look on the guide to see if they're translucent, opaque. They're kind of cool. Beautiful colors for this kit. Now they also give you 5 little black brushes, and they're kind of I really wouldn't call them brushes because they're kind of like a felt dauber, kind of with a tip. I probably will end up using my watercolor brushes only because I feel like they'll spread better, because I'm not sure how good those will spread. But they're great there for anybody who doesn't have watercolor brushes. And now let's look at the stamp kit. They wrapped it in a 2-tone autumny color ribbon. You get like a light brown and a copper. And there's the stamp kit. It's a beautiful stamp kit with a bunch of I think they're Chinese lanterns and fall leaves and vases, so you can make little bouquets with it. It's kind of cool how they've made it this month. But look at these big branches and big sentiments. These sentiments are huge this month. They're not little tiny sentiments that they've fit a bunch. A lot of them are as wide as my hand. So they're great for making large sentiments on front of a card. And underneath, we of course have our little paper part there that a lot of people like to use in their cards. And you get the paper Japanese lanterns, and of course underneath this huge die set, which we'll get into in a little bit, there's a beautiful paper lantern plant over wood. Isn't that pretty? It kind of goes with the stamps. There's that. And like I said, huge die set. It literally is the whole size of the stamp pack you have. So I cut them all out, and I just want to show you what you get. Now this is the first time I have to say Hero Arts went all out. Everything but this little dot has a corresponding dot. Usually we have a few pieces left out that we kind of wish had thing, but really that dot's not crucial. But even the littlest little plant littlest little leaf has a corresponding die, which is fantastic. Now you also get this frame die. This frame die is awesome also. You can use it stationary just for a cutout, or you can frame it with this oval frame and make a frame with it. So it's really fun. Either way, you can make a small frame or a big frame. So you get that plus all these dies. So they really went all out this time. I'm so impressed with what they gave me for this time, because usually you don't get this many dies. You really don't. You don't literally have everything that can be cut out. All I said is that little dot, and the dot is just accent anyway. It's not even crucial to the kit. But these word dies, like I said, they're huge. Some of them are as big as my palm. Very, very big dies. And very big words also, which is great. So this kit is very inclusive. It has everything you could need to make these cards. So very gorgeous kit this month. So let's get into making some cards with it. So I'm going to start by using some of my distressed oxides, and I'm using fossilized amber, fired brick, and spiced marmalade to make a blended background. Oop, and my sponge doesn't want to stick to it. There we go. Now it's coming. I wanted to try to get as autumny as I could with these colors, and I'm feeling like it might be a little too sunsetty. So I think I'm going to add one more color, and I believe I'm going to add peeled paint, just to give it that green look. Yes, peeled paint. Because leaves always have a tint of green when they fall down, because they're initially green, and of course the colors change in autumn. So I figured let's have that base of green in there. And I feel that makes it look less sunsetty and more autumny. So I'm going to take that beautiful frame, and I'm not going to use the oval. I'm just going to leave it as a cutout. And we're going to poke out the center and get all the little spots out if I can with my finger. Usually I hit it with my Spellbinders, but the pieces were actually pretty easy to poke out with my finger, so it was good. So now I want to add my sentiments to my card as well as to my card form. I mean my panel in my card form. So I'm going to use my Tim Holtz Travel. We just did a video on this, so definitely check that out. I'll leave a link to that above. It was a good comparison of the We Are Memory Keepers, the Stamp Perfect, and this travel edition. There are some things I love about this travel edition, and sometimes but the magnets are super strong, and I feel like it holds my card form down better, so I'm probably going to like it for stamping on my card form. But we're going to see how good of an impression I get. So far it's coming out pretty good. So I'm putting You Bring Color to My World in rhubarb stock. And see how big that sentiment is? It's really big. And then I am going to put my frame on this that I just cut out in Distress Oxide, and I'm trying to figure out which way I want to put it, because I want to get the sentiment in there. I think I like it the other way, so we're going to leave it like we had it. And I'm going to try to line it up inside it. So I'm going to leave that frame there for a minute, just so I can make sure I'm in the perfect location while I'm placing this. And I think that's straight. So I'm going to remove my frame now, and now I'm just going to stamp that also in the rhubarb stock. And I'm putting You Are Vibrant. So I'm going to wipe that clean, because now I'm going to come in with my embossing pad, and I'm going to add some clear embossing over the top. of this red. It's a great way if you don't have a large color spectrum of embossing powders to get what you need. Top it off with some clear embossing powder and it makes a beautiful colored embossing powder that you never had. I always keep more clear than I keep anything else in my collection. And this is of course the Recollections clear. So that gives that a nice shiny coat. And now I'm going to adhere. Oops, but I noticed I did leave a couple. So here comes my Spellbinders Tool. I didn't get poked out. But I'm going to adhere this, and I'm going to use my roller as well as my Zig 2A glue just to get this adhered. I could have used my Ken Oliver stick it, but I don't feel like for this one I really need to be worried about it because I actually these little details are actually quite large, unlike some of the finer details they've had in past kits. So I feel like there's an easier way to stick them down with glue. It's not as, I don't know, the details are not as fine and thin as they are in past ones. So now I'm going to stick this down. I'm not concerned if it's straight because I can always trim it down. But one thing about the Zig though, it does take a little while to dry. So sometimes I have to weight it down. And I notice a couple spots that need to be just tacked down. So a lot of times I use my ink pads to hold it down while they dry a little bit. That way when it's drying it has something to hold it down. Alright, so that should almost be ready. So while I'm letting that hold it down, I'm going to get ready to trim off this excess that I had that overhung a little bit. Couple places, but not too bad. So very simple but beautiful card. You get all these beautiful colors in it. I'm going to put some craft foam behind this. That way it's ready to be attached to my card form. I'm going to put a little bit more just because I had a little warping where I heat embossed. There we go. So right there we have a beautiful card, but now we need a little bit something to spice this up. So I'm going to add my Aurora Borealis red pearls that I have on the shop. They're 4mm. I think I called them ruby because they're kind of a ruby color, which is kind of pretty. And they got that little iridescent shine to them. They have oranges and yellows in it, so I think it'll work perfect with this card. Very simple card using sentiment in the frame, but very pretty. I mean, you really don't need to go crazy to make a beautiful card. Alright, so we're going to do this second card again on the Tim Holtz, and I'm going to take my Ranger Archival because I did do a batch before, and I'll show you in a minute, with my black Memento and the watercolors, and it kind of ran a little bit. So I'm assuming that too much water was added to the Memento and it just decided to run. Usually Memento is pretty good, but it didn't take this time. So I'm having to go a few times because my Archival I think is getting a little bit low. I'm going to buy a reinker for this. So I'm going to press down, try to get as sharp of an image as I can. Like I said, I tried it with the Memento and I was not happy. Look at that, it just bled. Which, I mean, it was kind of a pretty effect, but not what I was looking for. So I'm going to take my mug of water and I'm just going to wet this with my watercolor brush. And I'm just going to color these little Japanese or Chinese lanterns. And you don't need a lot to go far away of this little paint. It's just a little bit and you get a beautiful, vibrant color. Because I'm just barely touching it with my water brush pen and I get quite a bit in there. So look at that pretty orange color for the lanterns. I'm going to show you in a minute too what the little brushes do when I get to the green. I'm not super impressed by them only because I've used a watercolor brush and I like how they flow a lot better. But, I mean, if you were in a pinch and you didn't have brushes, they would work. So let me grab one of those. See, it's very stiff. You can't really get as good of a line. So I'm going back to my watercolor brush. But they are a little stiff. I don't feel like they spread as well either. I mean, if they were a small bristled watercolor brush, I'd be like, yes, but they're like a felt. So it's kind of like a Tim Holtz distress marker felt, unlike an Arteza brush marker. So if you kind of have that difference between the tips, I mean, you can get in a good effect with it, it's just not as good. I think I have too much water there. There we go. So I'm just going to paint these. They're Chinese lanterns. It's a type of plant, and they call it that because the little flower has a lantern effect when it pops out. And I'm going to do the little flowers that are on top here. And I'm doing a little bit of the yellow and the red and the orange, trying to give them the match what that looks like. And now I'm going to do this yellow for the palette, just keeping that bright family. And this one I'm going to use, and it actually almost looks like a purple. Kind of a purpley color. It's kind of pretty. Alright, so I'm going to die cut those up, but while we're waiting, I'm going to put the sentiment in my orange and yellow zigzag card form. I chose, I think I'm very straight, but we'll straighten that out quickly. I'm doing that reverse top. I'm choosing branch out. And for the front panel, I'm going to take out my Distress Oxides again, and I'm going to start with the Spice Marmalade, and I'm going to blend outward into a fade kind of pattern these colors so that they're there, but they're not in this. And this is a golden craft. It's not the regular craft paper. I chose more of a golden color for this one so that it kind of blended well. And I'm going to also come in with some fire brick to get more intensity towards the center and move out. Because I felt the orange kind of blended a little bit. That gives it that autumny feel. I'm mixing up my lids here. There we go. Alright. So, now that I have all my die cut pieces, I fussy cut out the vase and the platter because I wanted them to be a little bit more simple. And I did die cut the plants out. I tried to fussy cut them and they were just too small to fussy cut. So note, it is hard to fussy cut these because there's so many details in them. So I'm going to put some Scotch squares on this as well as adhere some of the leaves together onto the vase with my adhesive. And then I am overlapping a lot of it so that the vase looks like it's very full. And you can see I had a little goof up in the back and I had to redo it. That was with the Memento. I like to reuse my paper. If I make a goof up, I just flip it over and reuse it. There's two sides to every piece of paper, so no point of wasting it. and starting over with a new sheet. Majority of times you're not going to see what you have behind there, and neither is anybody who is looking at your card, because that is going to be underneath adhesive on the back side of the card. So reuse when you can. And there we go, and that gives it that beautiful 3D effect. So I'm going to take off these backings. It's always good to make sure you have enough foam to balance your piece too, because you don't want it to get crushed in certain areas in the mail. After all, this is a card that will possibly go in the mail. So before I adhere that plant on there, I'm also going to put my craft foam on the back of this panel. And I'm going to adhere it to my card form, because it's always good to do that before you put your 3D effects. That way you don't crush them, like I said. And you can see how fun it is with that zigzag pattern. And now I can adhere my little vase. Isn't that fun? I love how you can build your own vase with this too. Now to add a little bit more pizzazz, I'm going to add some more of these Aurora Borealis pearls in that pretty red color. That kind of goes with the colors in that watercolor effect. Here is a very simple card, no front sentiment, just showcasing the vase and the watercolor. I think if I really wanted to even spice up these watercolors even more, I could have actually added some glitter water to it, and they would actually have glittered, which would have been pretty too. Isn't that pretty? Just a really simple card. You can see the details of the watercolor as well as the sparkle in those things. So for our last card, I'm going to take again my Tim Holtz out, and I'm going to stick my branches on a panel of regular craft cardstock. I wanted these branches to have a brown back, because when you die cut your stuff out, you always get like a white layer. We had some people ask me why I masked last time when I did the stamping on one of the cups on last month's kit, and I said because you always get a white layer when you're crafting and you die cut it out, whether it's a stamped image, you're always going to get a little excess around it because they can't get really close to the stamped image. Plus, it'd be harder to line up. Always get this overlap, and sometimes the white overlap is fine. And sometimes for what you're looking for, you need color. So that's why I chose craft this time, and I'm heat embossing it on this card with my bark it's called Primary Bark embossing powder from Wow. What's nice about it is it gives it a nice vintage feel. And I'm also going to color it with my Arteza markers instead of using the watercolors this time. But like I said, you get an overlap, and I wanted it on this card not to be as stark white because there's going to be a lot of brown in this card. And this way that I still have like a brownish tone in my overlap. Another way to get rid of the overlap is to distress around it. Some people do that too, just to get rid of some of that stark white. So I'm just going in and doing multicolored branches and leaves on that. And now I'm going to, I was going to distress this panel and decide not to. I'm going to stamp randomly some of the little maple leaves that were in the kit. And I'm doing that in the Tuxedo Black by Memento. And I'm now going to color these in with the same Arteza colors I use in the front panel. But I decided to do some fun things with these leaves. The first two I'm coloring straight up. And now the rest of them, I'm going to mix my tints. And there we go, isn't that pretty? And I also used the circle die cut and the major frame die that we had again. I was going to do just the oval, and it was a little too big for what I was trying to do, so I thought the leaves would be a fun. Now that we have our multicolored leaves and our acetate panel cut and our frame cut, we can now start assembling our little fall shaker card that I'm going to make with this. So I'm going to stick my acetate on first, cut off any excess, and then I'm going to come in with my Tombow foam tape, which I love. I'm going to have to get some more because it's the perfect, I think the perfect width for shaker cards because it's high enough that you can put whatever you want in it, but it's super sticky so it doesn't come apart. So it's like the perfect combo of height and stickiness. And of course now with these non-stick scissors, I can go even better. So I'm putting in some orange and red sequins, just some basic ones that you can get at any craft store. And I'm going to pull off the back of this tape without making a big mess. Sometimes it's hard to get the white off there. Without making a mess. There we go. One more paste. And now I'm going to take my stamp panel, and then once again you see my mess up panel. And now I'm going to just touch up the little spots that need to be stuck down better. Go, and we're going to trim off the excess. I had left a little excess on my panel so I could always trim it down to the size of the foam. That's a big trick with shaker cards. Sometimes it's better to have excess than not enough for a backing because you can always trim down the backing. And just that is adorable by itself. But remember these branches? Well, we're going to make them go in the front of this card so it looks like we're looking through a forest of falling leaves. So I have these all die cut out now. And now I'm going to adhere them to my shaker panel. So I'm going to start with the big bare branch without the leaves on it. And then I'm going to put that one there. And I don't think I like that one there. So we're going to move that over here. The good thing about that is my adhesive hadn't stuck all the way, so I could pull it right off. And we're going to overlap them over the panel a little bit because I'm going to trim them down. All right, so isn't that fun? Now I'm going to put my sentiment inside my card. And I'm using Best Wishes. Came with the kit. And that is on the same craft colored cardstock. And now I'm going to take a panel of Golden Craft. I was trying to put it that way, but I think it has to go this way because the sentiment is so big. I often forget to take one off. And before I put another sentiment on, I'm like, what am I doing? So I am choosing the branch out again, and I'm doing that in the Wow primary bark again, that beautiful brown that matches the branches. And I'm going to heat set that, and I'm going to fishtail it out of our way. Fishtail this sentiment. All right. And now I'm going to adhere this to the front of my card. And I chose the Golden Craft over the brown because I didn't want it to blend in too much. I wanted that flag to stick out. And there's that. Now alone is a beautiful card. But let's add some more of those beautiful Aurora Borealis pearls. And that way we give it a little bit of sparkle. Some there. Grab my tool. I have to say, sometimes these pick-me-up sticks work so much better than trying to do it with your fingers. And I just put a little bit just to give it some sparkle. And there we go. Isn't that a fun shaker? So if you liked what you saw in this video, please watch the last uploaded video, as well as a video specially curated just for you. And like always, we invite you to click on the channel button, like, subscribe, and ring for notifications. And make sure to sign up for our newsletter via our website, where you can get crafty sales as well as newsletter updates.